Hello, morning. All right. So let's now see how we can delete the data by using a delete DML statement or maybe database for it. So let me take this program first of all. See, before that, if you are deleting data by using a delete statement, because we already know that deletes, they are every DML, they are atomic in nature, they doesn't provide, it doesn't require a return type. Whereas if you would use, if instead of using delete statement, for example, you are using database.delete, the second parameter as false, obviously, because if you would keep it true, it is again going to be the same. If you don't give the second parameter, again, it would be the same with conventional DML statements. So we should always give the second parameter as false. Now, what is the return type in that case? For delete statement, it is delete result. If you are inserting that, it is save result. You are updating, that's again save result. But when you are deleting, that is delete result. And see, you don't have to memorize this all. If you would do, that's a good thing. If you would remember this, if you would learn, if you memorize all this, that's a good thing. But you literally don't have to see for this. Why? Because as soon as you would type database.delete, it would automatically give you what is the return type of that. You just have to put observation, a close observation. If you are, with the intelligence itself, when I would, inside in the in the developer console, when I would type database.delete, that would automatically give me what is the return type of that. But it's good to memorize that. No, there's no issue in that as well. Because with database.insert, we already completed, right? Database.insert have database.save result. Database.insert have database.save result as return. And this is same for database.update as well. For database.update, it's again database.save result. This class is used. But when you are deleting the record, it is not database.save result. It is going to be database.delete result, right? We're going to see that. Chalo. So we have a program where we wanted to delete the hiring manager records based on what are the starting characters, some of the specified characters, if we are going to supply them in the input. For example, if there is bulk HR or something, if you would supply like HR or bulk or something like that, similar to that. So based on that selection, all of those records which have the same string inside in that, they should be get deleted. So here there are two things what you are going to understand. First is the program by which you could delete the records, and second by which the SQL query by we are going to make that selection. So this is going to be again an important program. So we can see we already have a class called DML utility, which have one of the methods. I'm going to just create another method inside that. So there is already a method to insert 100 hiring manager records. Now this is again a method which I'm creating to delete just write down me delete records from hiring manager object. So from the hiring manager object, we are going to delete the records. So for this, I would be creating a method, let's say public static and void. Let me take the method name as delete HR records. And because we wanted to specifically delete a particular thing, based on the input that is applied to this. So I'm making this method as a parameterized method, start starting characters. Can give anything, right? Always give relevant name, nothing else. Okay. So let's first of all would check, see, based, what I wanted to say. Let me try to describe that first. So let's go to the hiring manager object, and you can see if I would go with that's all records. We have few of the records where the name starts from Apex. We have few of the records where name starts for, let's say, bulk, batch, something like that. So we would going to supply a certain input, a small input, part of the input rather, not small, a part of the input. For example, if the complete name is batch 2081, either I'm going to supply batch or 208 or something similar to that. Now the query should return query should return all of those records which matches to this selection. I'm coming to that part. I'm coming to that part. Before that, the first thing what we have to check is whether this variable is having a value or not. Because if you wanted to delete all those records where the name either have batch or apex or HR or bulk, something like that number you are supplying to this variable. Right? So our entire logic of deletion depends on what is the value present inside a variable called as a starting cache. So it is very essential. Otherwise, it would going to give us a null pointer exception error. We are trying to delete something, but then what is to delete if that is not present? So it's obviously going to generate an error incoming, right? That is the reason I would first of all check and see this is a good practice. This is a best practice we always follow. We follow this even with the collections as well. If you have any collection and you wanted to perform certain operation on that, you first of all would check whether the collection is not empty. In the similar way, I would going to check, and this always have to done. This always have to done as a part of a best practice. You should always check this, right? So let me copy the name. If this variable name is starting cache, if it is not null, if it is not null, when it is having some numerical data, or if this variable is not equals to empty, when it is having a text data, I guess so many times I already have told you to find out the differences between is null and is empty. I have told this so many times that you should find out the differences between is null and is empty. All right? Because that is something they would ask you this in the interview. Even though if they would not ask you in the interview, you should always know why we are putting two conditions over here, null and empty. Why we are putting two conditions over here. That is why I have asked you to do that. Maybe answer is already something that I have told. But chalo, okay. Now I would require to design a query that would take this, and based on that, whatever you have supplied, it should return you those number of records. So let me show you that query first of all. So I'll go with Salesforce Inspector, not force.com. I'll go with Salesforce Inspector and let me go with designing a query. For example, let's say select from hiring manager. So I wanted, what are you wanted? So in this case, if you just wanted to delete a record, you actually just required ID. You would just going to require ID, nothing else. But let me extend this to names. So where ID and name from the hiring manager. See, if I would export this, it's going to return me all of the records, all of those records, whatever is there. But we don't want that. We particularly wanted for example, let me take this test. If the input given is text, then we just wanted to select only those records who is having test somewhere in the middle, in the beginning, or maybe in afterwards. So how to design that way? So I would impose a condition where name, like, here I'm using like operator, and I would be using a wildcard character. This % symbol, % means any possible combination, and then I would write down test. What does it means? Should have test. Before test, whatever it is having, it is allowed. When you say %, this means any possible combination, anything, even it doesn't have, even blank is also allowed. After test, it should have anything, that is also allowed. See, if you would replace this, with name equals to like this, test. So it would going to search for exact match. Is there any hiring manager where name equals to test? See, here it does not return anything. There is no such ID. We have just to include the possibilities, right? If you would write equals to, it would going to search for exact record, exactly same. Your name should exactly same equals to as text, test, whatever. But if you wanted to have similar records, those who have test and whatever there should be in the beginning or maybe after test there should be, whatever is allowed, then you must use like along with these wildcard characters. Now, if I would export, I can see there are 200 records which have test, maybe in front or back. In the whole string, it could be present in at any place. In the middle of the string, in the beginning of the string, or maybe at the end of the string. Could present at any place, but at least it have test. So this is the way make your selection precise. All right. So I'm going to use this query, by the way. I'm going to use this query. But only difference is like, whatever you are getting this test and everything, this is going to be get supplied dynamically. This input we are getting, we are receiving this dynamically from a variable called as string. So, okay. So I have one again thing. See, because it could return you more than one record. Like in this case, this has returned me 200 records. If I would replace this, let's say with bulk, I would get again 200 records. If I would replace this with HR, I would get 1,101 records. So that is what I'm trying to say, because the query is intended to return you more than one record. You have to define list collection, list of hiring manager, list of hiring manager, LST HR equals to. Now write down that. Select ID. Actually, in this case, I just required ID. Let me find the name from the hiring manager. From the hiring manager, where name like. Where name like. Now, I'm not going to give this directly. Here, I have given directly because that was just another example. But I'll just replicate the same. And here, we are getting whatever, whatever you have to see, we are getting it. We are getting it dynamically. Whenever you are getting it dynamically, it should be colon. Should be always colon. Okay. It should always be a cooler. So I would write down like maybe starting characters. Where name like, first of all, let me include a percent symbol. Percent symbol I'll have to include plus whatever the string is having, again plus a percent symbol. So this is as good as what I have replicated over here, isn't it? This is as good as what I have replicated over here. Okay. Yes. Let me now try to save up this. So this would, whatever character you are going to transfer, like you transfer HR. I mean, you give a character as HR. So whatever before HR is there, like test is there, and whatever after HR is there, record is there. So that every possibility has taken into consideration, and it's accordingly, it will going to return you those number of hiring manager. And because there is a possibility that it would return more than one record, we have defined a collection and we have stored it inside a collection called LSTHR. LSTHR records to delete. You can give any name, just try to give relevant, nothing else. All right, so LSTHR records to delete. This is the name of that collection. This looks familiar to what we are performing. Okay. Now after this query, I would first of all would before going to actually delete those record, I would first of all would check for whether not of this collection dot z. This collection should not empty. This is a best practice which we always follow, as we have followed this for the variables as well. So if this collection is not empty, what I have to do? I have to delete. Delete what? Delete the whole collection. This is the first way to doing this. to doing this. This is the first way to doing this, where you have given directly a delete statement, where you directly have given a delete statement. And you also know what are some of the limitations with delete statement. Delete is atomic in nature. Delete does not provide you partial processing. Delete does not have delete always maintain the transaction. 1 second. Yes. So delete would always maintain the transaction. If a single record is failed to be get deleted, the whole transaction is going to be get rolled back, and nothing is going to be get deleted. In that case, the complete batch would fail. So whatever the DML statement you are using, if it's insert, it's update, it's delete, they always have the same property. They always have the same property. So it's up to you what you want. You wanted to maintain the transaction, go with a plain delete statement. If you wanted to maintain the transaction, if you don't wanted to have the partial processing, if you intentionally want this facility that if we are committing this operation, the whole operation, the operation should be committed for a whole batch. That means even if a single record out of the batch goes out of the batch, then the whole transaction, the whole batch should be get rolled back. And whatever the operation, like we are performing a delete operation, even if the single record does not get deleted, the whole transaction should be get rolled back. If you wanted intentionally this, then go with this possibility. Otherwise, if you wanted to maintain the transaction, then instead of using delete, what we can use over here is database dot delete. Database dot delete. And now see, that is what I was trying to say. When you are using database dot delete, and we particularly use this version, or maybe this one. Yeah, this one. So when you are using database dot delete, where in the first there would be like 2 parameters inside this. The first is list of IDs. I'm going to supply the name of that collection. I'm going to supply the name of that collection which I am deleting, and we have that collection, right? We have a collection. We fired a query and collected the records inside a collection. Now the second parameter is a Boolean variable, and we know what happens if you give true or if you give false in this place. Importantly, what I wanted you to observe is what is the return type, database or delete. So either you memorize this, that's a good. Otherwise, even if you find it difficult to memorize it for every one of them, for now at least, you don't have to simply worry. Why? Because this is something which is already, you just have to look over here. You just have to see over here and put your observation. So I am using database.delete. By the way, what is the return type? How many parameters it have? How many parameters it have? Is it a parameterized method? Yes. If it's having a parameter, what's the first parameter? What is the second parameter? What is the return type? The return type here you can see is list of database dot delete. So I would be using this. If I'm using this, I'll have to, adjust the return type as well. So return type is database list of database dot delete. And give any name for that. Delete result. Del results. Now I have these 2 parameters which accordingly I'll have to adjust. So because I have collected the queries, what are the queries returning that I have collected. So that first parameter I would be replacing with this, and the second parameter should always be the false, because at this moment, if you would give true, there's no difference between delete and this. They would maintain transaction. They would become atomic in nature and does not provide you the facility of partial processing. And that's the reason this has to be false always. Now, let me execute this program first of all, and then I'm going to have a discussion on one another thing. Okay. So if I would, this would bulb, we have 200 records. Okay. Let's do one. There are 200 records. It's having bulk, all right? It's having bulk. You can see it over. And now let me fire in another query. The total we have 1359. Total we have 1359 records. And out of them 200 have bulk. Out of them 200 have bulk. Right. Remember these figures. And now I would be taking like DML utility dot delete. Okay. Here you have to supply that string. The string must always be enclosed within this. So I would be giving this bulk and I'll execute this. Line number 27. Expected growth. Is 7 falls over. Just commenting out that method. Maybe certain changes are there which we committed. All because of that only. Oh, it's okay. Line number 27 unexpected growth. That is happening. Without charges. There's nothing inside in this code. See to but if I have missed any semicolon anywhere, if string characters is not equals to null, not equals to empty, select by name. Somebody has responded this correctly. I'm actually missing a semicolon. Oh, so DML utility dot did I miss a semicolon? Maybe that is possible. All right. So I would be writing bulk over here. Let's see what happens. Yes, good catch. Very good catch. So if you would go and see, I mean, there's one DML statement we executed and the 200 rows. That means actually 200 records have been deleted. Now time is to verify that. So if I would go with previously there were 200 records which were having bulk in them and the count was 1359. Now if I would execute the same query, there's no data, right? There is no data who's having this bulk. And if I would export this once again, I'll get a count which was 200 minus 200 to the previous one, isn't it? So that's like we have deleted. That's how we perform the delete operation with either delete or database dot delete. Either delete or database dot delete. But let me show you one another more optimized way to perform this, right? I'll show you one more optimized way to perform this. But in that way, the way which I'm telling you right now, this modification which I would be doing, this modification which I'm doing right now, it cannot be applicable on database.delete, by the way. Yes, it cannot be applied with database.delete. It can only be applied with the plain delete statement. Let me do one thing. Let me comment out this code up to over here. Let me comment out this code up. All right. So we are checking. Whether there is an input supplied to this variable or not. Whether or not the input has been given to this variable. Now, if something has given to this, right? This time, let me try with another name. That is, let's say HR. I would export this. So there are 1050 records. There's 1050 records. The name is HR. Inside in the name, there is an HR. And let me show you one optimized way. I mean, instead of doing this, then the coding, we can literally optimize this, but this is possible with the conventional delete only. What I'm trying to do is this one. I am just writing the query. I'm just writing the query side endless. I'm just writing the query inside a delete state. Delete. What to delete? Go with this query. Go with this query. Wherever in the name you find out whatever has been given as an input, delete out every one. So what would happen in this case? See, internally, this execution will be bifurcated in the same way like we have designed. How we have designed this? We fired a query, collected the result, and because we know there are more than one result, that is collected inside, that should be collected inside a list collection. We did that, right? And then we have supplied the name of that collection with the delete statement. When there is a facility, I mean, to optimize this, there is a facility that you can fire the query directly. You can give the query directly along with your DML state. Cannot be given. That's again an advantage. That's again an advantage. By the way, when you are talking in the interview, for example, if someone has asked you, what is the difference between, let's say, database.delete or insert or update and plain insert, update, delete? What is the difference between insert and database.insert? What is the difference between update and database.update? Difference between delete or database.delete? Then you can list out all those limitations what we have talked so many times. They are atomic in nature. It doesn't have any return type. It does not provide you partial processing. They maintain the transaction. They does not have any tracking. I mean, because they don't have any return type. But then there is an advantage. Yes, of course. Out of all these limitations, what conventional DML statement is having, there is one advantage with DML, which is not with any of database class. That you can fire a query directly. You can give an SQL query directly with a DML statement. You can fire a query directly with a DML statement. You can give, and you can perform this with either update and upsert or delete. You can do that. Because with insert, we usually try to give the new record. With insert statement, we always used to give the new record. So that's, I mean, with insert, it's not possible. Of course, it's not possible logically. But at least with update, upsert, and delete, or I guess with undelete as well. With all these 4 DML statements, you can directly give a query and you can make your program more optimized. So this is going to work in the same way internally. When the compiler would execute this, first compiler would execute this query. It would collect the result inside a collection. Compiler have its own memory called as heap memory. So it would collect that. It will form an internal collection for this. It would store the record into that. And then to delete statement, it would going to supply all those IDs that have been collected, that is present inside that heap collection. And this statement would going to delete all of them. But again, it would be atomic in nature. It does not provide you partial processing. If any one record out of this is getting failed, this whole transaction is going to get rolled back. If you are agree with this kind of execution, you can perfectly optimize your program like this. All right. So this is another way, a more optimized way. In just one line statement, you can perform that. That is the more optimized way, right? Let me save this program first of all, and let's execute this one. All right, now it has been saved. This time I'm going to replace this with HR. Execute this. So now 1050 records have been deleted, as you can see. I'll go back with this. If I try to export, we are not going to find any record where there is an HR. And out of 1159 records, now only 109 records are present inside it. So if you would go and if you would see, there's only 99 records are there. There's only 99 records are there. Why it is showing 109 records? Okay. That's pretty strange. I don't know why, because I have not given is deleted in all rows. Why this is picking up? Anyways, that's not. I'll have to check it out. I mean, why there is 99 over here and why there is 109 over. Anyways, chalo. So more importantly, these are the two ways by which you could delete. And this is like the more optimized form. This is like more optimized form. Perform the deletion operation. What is next? Next could be undeleted. Restore, undelete. Okay, we're going to see this. I guess tomorrow. Yes. Any questions on this? Any questions? Any questions? All right. Thank you so much for joining.